That's egg on my face, because in the last video I was pretty hard on one-player tabletop games. But since then, I have been pouring my way through the winners of Board Game Geek's yearly solitaire print and play contest like a proud paper pervert. Dozens and dozens of one-player games, all of which are absolutely free. Turns out, my misgivings about getting your money's worth from one-player games disappear when you pay no money. Honestly, messing around with print and play is the most excited I have been about board games in yonks. And don't worry if you don't own a printer at home. There are so many of these games to easily justify you putting in an order at an online printing service. At which point, you can look forward to being mailed an envelope with about 30 games in it for cheaper than you would have thought possible. Plus, if you use an online service, you can have your boards and cards printed on actual cardstock, unlike my floppy efforts. So, answer me this, people. Are you ready to see more mechanics in a shut up and sit down video than we've ever had before? Are you ready to see themes fly past you as if you were riding a magic carpet made of A4? People, are you ready to print? Right, I know this looks more like a job interview than a shut up and sit down review. But listen, if you print out one game from this video, I think it should be Bargain Basement Bathysphere brackets of Beachside Bay. It's a great name, but the real genius is in how this game is structured. What we have here is a manual interspersed with levels of an increasingly complicated roll and write campaign game about piloting a bathysphere to the bottom of the ocean. Or maybe more realistically, this is a game about deciding when to give up on reaching the seabed and turn around so that you don't suffocate or implode or suffer the ignoble end of burning to death while underwater. And it is a cool little puzzle. You roll a dice pool and can use the numbers you rolled to go up or down that many spaces. Some spaces give you points if you land on them, others, if you land on them, you erase this penalty that you would otherwise suffer for hurtling past them. But every space that you mark, whether by landing on it or getting penalized by it, on your return journey, if you land on a space that's been marked, that causes yet more stress on your bathysphere. So this game's a bit like a roll and write version of that game that kids play where they don't want to step on cracks in the pavement, except with a bit more drowning involved. If you've played Oink Games' Deep Sea Adventure, Bargain Basement Bathysphere will feel familiar but better, or in my case, actually fun. These opening turns of the game are full of tension as you try and set yourself up for a good run. Deciding when to turn around is great. You get filled with more and more and more dread. And then the return trip is dramatic as you're hoping you crash through the sea surface before you die. So you're doing mission after mission, and every mission introduces new mechanics. That's fun. And then Bargain Basement Bathysphere, or Triple B as us in the community call it, it starts introducing mini-games in between campaign missions as if you were playing Gloomhaven. Oh yeah, your grandmother's left you an aquarium for you to fill out. Oh yeah, and also all these missions you're doing, they're all gonna let you draw lines and force you, if you screw up, to draw storm clouds on this transatlantic cabling mini-game. And these are just for starters. I've spilled some tea. So this is a game you keep playing not just because it's fun, not just because it's always introducing new mechanics, but because you have these amazing, persistent mini-games, more and more of them, as if you were playing Undersea XCOM. I was fully expecting print and play games to be experimental. You know, that's the designer's prerogative when they have zero overheads. I was not expecting them to be this successful in their experimentation. I cannot recommend Bargain Basement Bathysphere highly enough. This also has the funniest writing I think I've ever seen in a tabletop game, at least outside of the early work of Vlada Chvátil. A fan gave me this a long time ago. And now I can finally use it. Shut Up and Sit Down recommends Bargain Basement Bathysphere. And it's completely free. What is going on? If you need me after this video, I will be trying designer Scott Slomiani's other games, including the hydrologically challenged Haunted Hayride at Hank's Hen Hatchery. A game about placing rides in a farm that is slowly flooding. Somebody get this man a publishing contract. Let's set up the next game. There. Raging Bulls is a puzzle on a single sheet of paper. At the start of each round, you draw some bulls. Then you roll 3 dice and have to use 2 of the numbers you rolled to connect 2 posts on different sides of the field. To get a good score, you have to isolate bulls from one another and from the edges of the field. And you can only connect to a post you've already used if you roll doubles. Just gonna swap this out for a sheet I used earlier. Now, if you roll your dice and get some numbers that you can't use, you have to cross off a mallet, which impacts your final score. So always, before you roll, you decide whether to press on or stop and move to the next, more packed paddock. Raging Bulls took me about 20 minutes to learn and finish a full game. I enjoyed every one of those minutes. I'd happily show it to someone else. Here, try this. It's fun. But I don't necessarily want to play it again. And in sustaining one play, you'd expect that this is where I'd call Raging Bulls disappointing, summoning as much authority as my foreign accent can muster. But it's not going to happen. Listen, I know that at Shut Up and Sit Down we have this reputation for being hard to please European persimmons, but it's only because we never want our audience to spend money and regret it. Raging Bulls, it's free. It gave me 20 minutes of entertainment for free. Say hello to Printin' Quins. He's a lot more easygoing. I think I love him. Hell yes! Bonjour! Bienvenue dans mon supermarché. Se fait de papier. Sois gentil, s'il vous plaît. Supermarche is an entire solo management game. Look at this. It's got 2 kinds of cards. It's got cubes that I had to steal from El Grande, which gave me the troubling sensation of harvesting organs. Supermarche is also close to the upper limit of what I could be bothered to assemble during my initial exploratory romp around solitaire print and play games. A thing you should know about the genre is that it's often divided into easy builds, standard builds, and advanced builds. So, if you like arts and crafts and would love a good excuse to unsheath your glue stick, you can have fun assembling games that resemble, in scale, full-size board games. You can whittle pawns and find appropriate ready meals to stick boards to so that they have thematically appropriate smells. Me, the craftiest thing I've ever done was a sustained campaign of underage drinking. So if you're looking at Supermarche, gazing upon my works and thinking, wow, Quins must be a talented, crafty person. It's not true. I'm terrible at this stuff, and if you get involved, you could make stuff so much more impressive. In each round of Supermarche, you must first buy goods for your stockroom, being wary that A, the prices fluctuate wildly from round to round, B, different goods rot at different rates, C, your stockroom has limited room and your shop floor has even less room, and D, if you ever run out of stock of anything, that is a financial disaster. You call yourself a Supermarche? You were just a marché all along. After stocking up, customers then go thundering around your store, each with a quote that really brings this horrid job of yours to life, and you roll dice to see what they buy. You have 5 customers to serve each round, and you have to time exactly when you're going to do the single restock you're allowed. Also, you can play around with sales and coupons, perhaps shifting your customers' attention away from your dwindling reserves of dairy. Supermarche feels like the paper prototype proof of concept of an absolutely phenomenal full-price multiplayer management game that was never made. I almost can't believe how many Eurogames I've played in the 6 years since this came out that still have us collecting wood and stone and turning them into buildings that nobody cares about, whereas all of the ideas from this have never been used again. Do you know how rare it is for a game to arrive and all of the ideas just work thematically and in terms of entertainment? I adore this kind of triple distillation gambling system where you first have to decide what cubes to buy, then how to stock them, then how to manage the customers so that you make the most money. I think that actually summarizes why I've gotten so into print and play solitaire games. As board gamers, the reason we're always buying new releases is because we want to explore new ideas. Solitaire print and play games is now, it's like me hitting a gold strike. I can explore as many new great ideas as I want. I don't need money and I don't even need other people. The only other time I see this many board game ideas in rapid succession is a board game convention. And that's what this feels like. Hey, you know what I'm doing in isolation? Self-isolation? I'm enjoying QuinCon 2020. Wish you were here. Not a dedicated solo game, but one you have the option of playing on your hot little lonesome. WizKids has released a demo of the upcoming roll and write Superskill Pinball by Jeff Engelstein. On each round you roll 2 dice and players have to use them to hit any feature below the location of the ball before rolling again and using those numbers. Ideally getting points and keeping the ball as high as possible, because once it reaches the bottom you'll have to knock it back up. But since all of those spaces on the paddles can only be used once per ball, every time you use a dice to knock the ball back into the air, the numbers that you can use to do that again are reduced and reduced. So you're frequently fretting about whether to drop the ball right down to the paddles immediately just to knock it back up while you can, or to continue to get points by keeping the ball in the air, knowing that, if you do use that space, then next turn you have to roll a 3 or a 6 or you've lost the ball. You also have the ability to nudge the table left and right, taking one of the numbers you rolled and knocking it higher or lower, but at the risk that if you get too greedy, if you nudge too far, then your table might get locked the next turn. There's also multi-ball, which is as much fun as it sounds, and all of these weird aspects of the table to interact with and then offer multipliers too, and I'm going to say something depressing now, which is that I really like the history of pinball. I like how the tables are built and designed and how you get good at them. But the only way I could ever get good at them is if they were somehow turn-based. Ta-da! My dreams came true. I like this game a lot. This demo has really whetted my appetite for the finished game. I can't wait to play with the beautiful full-color tables coming in the box. I want to try the more advanced tables. And I'm also looking forward to having the dry erase tables, because then I don't have to erase basically this entire sheet every time I hit 100 points. Imagine the world was in grave danger and your only options to help were to either stay at home or go for a walk. Does that sound uncomfortably familiar? Or does it sound like a 2-page fantasy epic? It's probably unfair to call Utopia Engine a fantasy epic when the full Dwarf Star 1-player adventure boxes that originally released in the 1980s are all available to download on Board Game Geek. But come on, they involve printing like 100 colour pages. Utopia Engine is about as epic as things get while working within my irreparably damaged attention span. In this game, only you can assemble the machinery of the Utopia Engine and prevent doomsday. To do this, you'll pick a location and spend days roaming that location, rolling dice 2 at a time and putting the result into boxes. And when you're done, you deduct the bottom number from the top to get as low a number as possible. If the result is from 0 to 10, great, you found a part of the engine. If it's from 11 to 100, that's good too. You found a component like gum or wax to help you fuse the parts of the engine together. Anything else? You it. You're going to be attacked by a region-specific monster. But if you can just screw up big enough, you can get a huge legendary monster who might just be hiding some powerful treasure, or they might just slap you unconscious. You can also turn unconscious from trying to assemble the engine itself. You see, you can also injure yourself trying to activate the parts of the engine that you found, or when you try and connect those parts. And both of these are done with other discrete little dice games that mix gambling and maths. As you bring more and more of the engine online, you're going to get more and more powerful, but as you get closer and closer to doomsday, you're going to have to take more and more uncomfortable risks. I like Utopia Engine a lot. I like how hard it is. I like its canny use of space, smearing an hour's worth of adventuring across just 2 sides of A4. And I like that, just like Supermarche, all of the mechanics in this feel fresh and new to me. And to be candid for a second, these games have taught me that I also just really like using pencils. In all honesty, getting out my glue and scissors and assembling these games and then filling them in with my pencil like little worksheets, there is a quiet, very tender mindfulness to solo print and play games, which has really been helping me cope. Finally, let's talk about Crystallo, which I happen to have the deluxe manufactured copy of, but you can still print it and play it, both of those things, yourself for free, and you might want to do that because it swept the Solitaire Print and Play Award circuit in 2018. That might be the worst delivery I have ever done on Shut Up and Sit Down. It's going in the edit. Crystallo is a game in which you're setting out to rescue 6 creatures that have been tracked by the Black Dragon before trying to trap the dragon itself. And to do that, you're going to take your deck, you're going to put a card in the middle, and then you're going to start working like a cross between a hero and a haphazard bricklayer. You see, what you're trying to do is make little squares that are that feature 1 orb and 3 crystals, and the 3 crystals have to be all of the same or all different in both color and shape. In the game's first phase, you're trying to place all of these crystals on your kind of glittering tapestry before the deck runs out. And if you manage that, then you have to wipe your whole tapestry to make an empty table, which is easily the hardest part of the whole game because it's gorgeous. And then you take the 9 cards you set aside, but you turn them face up. And you have to make a new tapestry, placing 1 of every color of crystal to trap the dragon. Crystallo is pretty and unusual and exciting, and lest we forget, if you want to print it yourself, it is completely free. But the reason to try it, I think, is the hypnotic energy that it has. You see, every time you draw a card from the deck, you look at the top and then you rotate it to look at the bottom, and you look at this whole mess you've made. You're looking at color and shapes, seeking until finally, bam! And you get that tactile sensation of placing a nice juicy crystal, or if you're playing the print and play version, a sugar cube or a hairball or whatever. Crystallo is also a crystalline case study of a solo game that makes the most of the resource that only solo games have, which is time. You know, a good solo game should allow you to look at this puzzle from a whole suite of different angles. It should allow you to take your sweet time on your turn. A good solo game should make you feel like an indulgent libertine, draping themselves over this borderless, timeless, enormous, unsolvable problem, and it should have no setup, it should have no upkeep, it should have no easy decisions, and it should have no friction. And that is Crystallo. I could go on. I could tell you about my time stressing over my vegetable plot and nosy neighbours in the preposterously charming Mr. Cabbagehead's garden. Or there was my panicked trip through space and time and a whole deck of bad stuff in Deep Space D6. A triumph of a little dice management game. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to stop here because unlike most Shut Up and Sit Down videos, I don't want to just recommend games to you because I have only tried a small sampling of the dozens and dozens of well-liked solo print and play games on offer that happen to appeal to me. Instead, what I want you to get from this video is I want you to get excited about going and exploring this scene yourself. And then, if you find something good, I want you to leave a comment below this video, wherever you found it, because in time, I want this video to amass a dragon's horde of recommended games beneath it for the people who find it in future. If you want to look for games yourself, I found most of these games, as I've said, through Board Game Geek's yearly solitaire print and play design contest, and you'll find the winners of that contest linked right here in the description of this video. You can also find any of the games mentioned in this video by searching for them on Board Game Geek. Either way, you'll get to a game's page, you want to click Files, and then, so long as you're logged in, you can download to your heart's content. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you missed part 1 of my series on solo games, focusing on games that you can actually buy, you'll find it right here. Or if you want to watch a full-on meaty video looking at just one game you can play by yourself, last week's review of The Quiet Year is right there. Also, if you enjoyed this video, do share it, because if it's popular enough, I'll be able to justify doing a whole other video on great print and play games that people recommend, which I kind of want to do. So please share away. Thanks for tuning.